Hello everyone, welcome once again to the Uplifting Hub. I'd like to take this moment to thank you for your support, for liking, for subscribing. I appreciate you returning, and if you are new on this channel, I go by the name of Chekhofa. Anyways, without any further ado and dramatic introductions, I'd like to kindly ask you to subscribe, to like, to comment, and share this video with your audience. It helps the channel to grow, and it tells YouTube that people are watching this content, and recommend it to many more people. I'm certain that many of you may have noticed that I have been gone for quite a while, and I thought it really would be quite decent of me to give a brief introduction of my, if you would call it, disappearance. What had happened is that in the month of April and May, my family went through such a rough time. We've actually lost loved ones in such a short space. So, it's something that when you go through, you really, I cannot explain. I think many a times we hear people say, time heals the wounds. I think that's the best way I can explain. On today's installment on the Uplifting Hub, I would like to have a discussion of a topic that has really been so dear to my heart. And the topic is, we are all wounded. The topic of talking about wounds, the topic of talking about scars, the topic of talking about, traumatic experiences that have happened to us, or we may be the results that somebody has experienced trauma. As I mature in age and engage with different people in different walks of life, I've come to realize that many of us are wounded, or we have wounded somebody. I've come to realize that we're all carrying a certain kind of a load, a certain kind of a baggage that individually and respectively so, we all have our own laundry, if I can call it that way. And I've also come to recognize that so many of us have not dealt with the depth of the wound. It could be emotional wound, financial wound, mental wound, different types of wounds that many of us are carrying. And a lot of people have built this shell to kind of avoid feeling the pain or revisiting this place or this event that has caused or is a consequence or the aftermath of this wound. The purpose of this conversation is to challenge myself, to challenge you as well, to say that until we deal with the depth of what has hurt us, until we deal with the depth of what has caused us pain, until we deal with the depth of what has broken us, unfortunately, we can never ever fully feel free. We can never ever feel that we've been set free. No matter how much we confess that Christ is our Savior, if we don't deal with issues from their roots, if we don't visit certain events, and I'm not saying visit them to feel the pain, but I'm saying I think we need to get to a point where we have an introspection, where you sit back and analyze what has happened and what have I contributed to what has happened, and have I actually forgiven myself, or have I actually asked the person that I may have offended? Because it's not only about us being offended. I think in life we all go through different phases. There's a phase where you are the wounded, and there's a phase where you are the wounder, and it's important that we have honest conversations, authentic conversations, frank and candid conversations with self, in order to find if you are the wounded or the wounder, and you begin a process of healing. And sometimes the process of healing is going to involve you actually asking for forgiveness. If you've hurt somebody, if they've hurt you, sometimes it's going to take you to say to the person that I've offended you, that I forgive you. I know that it takes a lot to say that. It's going to require you to actually pray about it and ask God for strength and ask God for the wisdom. After all, God says, as He forgave us for our sins and trespasses, He will also, we should also forgive, we should also forgive those who have offended us. So it's biblical to actually forgive those who have offended us. I've come to realize that the topic of forgiveness is so deep. If you are in a space and they're talking or preaching of forgiveness, you'll just start hearing people burst into tears. Some of us, I've personally, I'm going to share this. I've personally had to forgive my father for not raising me so that I can have a relationship with him. And that relationship can be a better relationship. I've had to forgive my father, and it took a lot to do that. But Christ in me is the hope of glory. So having God in my life has truly been a blessing. The Bible says that, the peace of God that surpasses human understanding shall guard our hearts and our mind. And that is the place you want to be when it comes to forgiveness. You want to be at peace. And also forgiveness. I've had a lot of people say unforgiveness is a poison. I think there's a quote about it, that unforgiveness is a poison, that you not forgiving your offender, you're actually imprisoning your mind. You're imprisoning your spirit. So forgiveness sets you free. Forgiveness is liberating. It liberates you. It sets you free. So I want to challenge us to say that let us have a moment of introspection, especially as we mature in life. It's important for us to be honest with ourselves, to deal with things. Some of us, the reason why certain doors have not opened is because of that unforgiveness. I know that person took your purity. I know that person took advantage of your no. I know that someone took advantage of your kindness. I had a story of someone that I know who said her own mother rejected her. Can you imagine the pain? She is alive, but she wants no dealing with her own daughter, her own flesh and blood. I actually don't want to even imagine how she's doing, how she's feeling. And I pray that one day I will be able to interview her about this experience. I can imagine this must be a horrifying experience. Sorry guys, I actually have popcorns. I thought I was going to be nibbling on sound, but it looks like they're not even needed. So I'm just going to remove these because they are a bit of a distraction. Let me see if I can just put this. Yeah, there we go. So, and some water. So you can imagine as a child, you were innocently brought into this world, and the person who brought you rejected you. Do you know the pain of rejection? Some of us have been rejected by our siblings. Some of us are being compared because one sibling is doing better than the other, or one sibling seems to have the intellectual capacity than the other child, and you can feel the comparison. But I want to challenge you to look beyond that. I want to challenge you to be a change agent in your family, in your circle. Pursue peace. The Bible says, if it is in your power, pursue peace with all men. God placed the responsibility on you to pursue peace, which means that He'll hold you accountable. And is it fair as well for your life to be boxed into this wounded person, to be boxed into this emotional person because you've been hurt? I want to challenge you to say that you deserve better. We all deserve better. There is more out of life. At the other side of forgiveness, there is liberation. At the other side of letting go, there is open doors. At the other side of saying enough, I cannot be like this anymore, there's people willing to love you. And one of the other thing I've realized about unforgiveness and, not dealing with past hurt is that it makes you to deal with people with caution. You're always constantly watching out. Are they going to hurt me? Are they going to do this? You're not able to fully express yourself in relationships, as a colleague, as a family, as a sister. It really puts you into these parameters and these boundaries. And it's not intentional. It is unintentional. You suddenly find yourself on alert. You're watching out the people around you. If someone says this, you're like, oh my God, is it about to happen again? That is a sign that you have not dealt with what has wounded you. And I've also come to realize that the dangers of not dealing with our wounds, especially wounds that have happened to us before we are in committed relationships, before we are married, is that we begin to bleed on the wrong people. When we get frustrated, we take out our frustrations on our partners. When we have children, we take out our frustration on our children. And that is because deep down, there are issues that have not been dealt with. There are things that you have boxed in the inside of you from an early age, and you've convinced yourself that you're strong, I can handle life. But you are you've dealt with things at the top surface. You have not really gone deeper. But it is time to go deeper. Like some men of God, when they prophesy and they say, go deeper, men of God. If you are a man of God, a woman or man, whichever gender you are, it is time to go deeper. You deserve to be loved fully. You deserve relationships that are honest with good intentions. But we can only experience that when we set our mind, we set our spirit free from all these things. I know there's no perfect life, but I do know that they are. The other day, I'm sorry to deviate. The other day I was driving and a memory of something that happened to me, passed, and I was reduced to tears. It passed in my mind and I was reduced to tears because I began to think about, why me? Why did it have to be me? But I said to myself, I forgive what happened. Whatever that event is, I forgive myself. And some of us need to forgive ourselves for missed opportunities. Some of us have to forgive ourselves for doubting ourselves. Some of us have to forgive ourselves for the wrong decisions that we have made. Some of us have to stop being hard on ourselves. My message today is a message of genuine self-introspection. Looking within yourself and saying, why am I holding myself back? Why am I going through what I'm going through? Why is it that I constantly hit a brick wall